All right, today we are diving into one of the most famous and, let's be honest, kind of confusing chapters in the Gospel of Matthew. It's this collection of short stories or parables that Jesus told about something he called the kingdom of heaven. And really, they often feel a lot like riddles.
So you gotta ask, right? Why the sudden change? I mean, Jesus had been teaching pretty directly, and he was drawing these huge crowds. So why suddenly switch to these cryptic, almost riddle-like stories? It's a huge mystery, and it really sets the stage for everything else.
And here's our first big clue. This shift in his teaching style, it wasn't random at all. It happened right after things got really heated. The context here is key. The religious leaders had become super hostile, even accusing him of being in league with the devil. So his message was being flat out rejected, and this was a massive turning point. So in response to all this opposition, Jesus switches things up. He starts using the parable. He's about to explain what God's kingdom is all about, but he's going to do it in a way that kind of forces you to choose. Are you really looking for the truth, or are you just here to argue?
This quote really gets right to the heart of it. See, the parables did two things at once. If you had an open heart and you really wanted to understand, they were like keys that unlocked these deep, hidden truths. But if you had a closed-off, hostile heart, the stories were just stories. They ended up hiding the very truths they were supposed to reveal.
So let's dig into the first couple of clues Jesus gives us about this kingdom. These next two parables are all about how it grows, and trust me, it's not what anyone at the time would have expected from a kingdom. He kicks it off with something super common, an everyday mustard seed. And the question for his audience, and for us, is pretty immediate. What on earth could a tiny, insignificant seed possibly have to do with the mighty kingdom of God? And boom, there's the twist. It starts out as the smallest of all the seeds, something you barely even notice, but it grows into something massive, a tree big enough for birds to come and find shelter. That contrast between the tiny start and the huge outcome, that's the whole point. So if we decode this a little, what are we looking at? Well, the tiny seed, that's the kingdom itself, planted by the Son of Man. The huge tree is the kingdom in its final full form. And the birds, they represent all the people who come to find refuge and rest in it. So the big takeaway here is this: never, ever underestimate small, humble beginnings. The kingdom of God doesn't show up with a bunch of fireworks and a marching band. Nope. It grows from something the world might just write off as totally insignificant. And right on the heels of that story, Jesus gives us another one that's super similar. This one's about leaven, or yeast. A woman hides just a little bit of it in this huge batch of flour, and its influence just spreads and spreads until the whole thing is transformed. It's another picture of a small start, but with a slightly different flavor. And this is such a cool picture of the internal nature of the kingdom. You know, unlike the mustard seed that grows on the outside for everyone to see, leaven works from the inside, invisibly, quietly, but its effect is total. It completely transforms the culture that it's placed into. Okay, let's move on to the next set of clues. Now that we've seen how the kingdom grows, Jesus shifts the focus to its incredible value, like, what is this kingdom actually worth? He tells these two super quick stories. In one, a guy just stumbles on a hidden treasure completely by accident. In the other, a merchant has been searching his whole life for the perfect pearl. But their reaction? It's exactly the same. They joyfully sell everything they have to get their hands on it. Now here's where things get really interesting. One fascinating way to look at these symbols is that the man and the merchant, they aren't us. They represent Jesus himself. And the treasure, that pearl of great price, that's his people. He's the one who sells all that he has, making the ultimate sacrifice to redeem them. But hey, no matter how you slice it, the principle is crystal clear. When you finally, truly grasp how valuable the kingdom is, it completely reorders all your other priorities. And the response isn't a reluctant one, it's this joyful surrender, because you know what you're gaining is worth so much more than anything you could ever give up. Okay, the final set of parables. They take a much more serious, even dramatic turn. We've talked about growth, we've talked about value. Now Jesus introduces the sobering reality of a final judgment. So in this story, you've got a farmer who plants good wheat. But then an enemy comes along and secretly plants weeds that look almost identical to the wheat. When the workers want to rip out the weeds, the owner says, "No, wait, let them grow up together until the harvest, and then we'll sort them out." And with this one, we don't even have to guess, because Jesus spells it out later for his disciples. The good seeds, those are the sons of the kingdom. The weeds, they're the sons of the evil one, sown by the enemy.
For now, they live together in the world. But the harvest, the end of the age, is definitely coming, and that's when the angels will do the final sorting. And just to make sure the point really lands, he tells another story. This time he uses an image his audience, a bunch of fishermen, would have recognized in a heartbeat. It's a huge dragnet, thrown into the sea, and it just scoops up every kind of fish imaginable, good and bad.
What's so cool here is how these two parables show different sides of the same coin. The wheat and tares story really focuses on the fact that there's an enemy actively working against the kingdom. The dragnet story emphasizes that the kingdom's invitation goes out to everyone, but in the end, they both land in the exact same place, a final decisive sorting at the end of the age. So the bottom line is this. Right now, in our world, the genuine and the fake live side by side. We often can't even tell them apart. But a day is coming when a final, perfect, and divine judgment will make that distinction absolute and permanent. So after all these riddles about growth and value and judgment, Jesus turns to his disciples and asks, "Hey, have you guys understood all this?" And when they say yes, he tells one last little parable. This one isn't about the kingdom itself, but about the person who gets it. He says that a teacher who's truly become a disciple is like a homeowner with a treasure chest. They don't just cling to the old stuff, and they don't just chase whatever's new. They understand how the ancient truths, the old treasures, are fulfilled and made new in the present, and their job is to bring both out and share them with everyone. And that kind of leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? Jesus called these stories treasures, keys to unlocking mysteries that have been hidden for ages. It really makes you wonder, if these ancient stories hold that much deep, layered meaning, what other hidden value might be waiting for us in texts we think we already know?